On to the 10th Assembly, of which you are a part. And of course, we don't have a crystal ball to look into and determine what is going to be in the future. But the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, is giving something of an indication of how the National Assembly will function at a Thanksgiving in an article that was written by a veteran journalist. He's given the indication that the National Assembly will function. The current National Assembly will rally around and support the programs of the current administration by eliminating all inhibiting policies affecting the progress and development of the country. Now, that's all well and good, but there is the very reason that we have these three tiers of government. It's not for them to be opposing each other, but to remove any semblance of one rubber stamping the other, so that there shall be, a freeness and a fairness, and indeed, at the end of the day, the Constitution shall be supreme. Now, in this whole question, there was a sense in which the Ninth Assembly was accused by observers of this whole matter of rubber stamping. It probably didn't come out as clearly as they could have, and so there is the worry that I hope this won't continue now, and that's why what the Senate President has said, that the current Assembly will rally around and support the programs of the current administration. But surely that shouldn't be willy-nilly.
The problem is that Nigerians misinterpret or have a very different perception of the relationship that is supposed to exist between the legislature and the executive. The relationship between the executive and the legislature should be a relationship that is mutually symbiotic relationship. Mutually symbiotic relationship in the sense that both the executive and the legislature were elected by the people with a view to delivering dividends of democracy to their doorsteps. In the process of discharging that sacred responsibility of delivery of dividends of democracy to the doorstep of the people, there is a need for the executive and the legislature to understand each other and then work together without necessarily either the executive or the legislature surrendering its independence to either arm of the government and then deliver dividends of democracy to the people. So this question of the National Assembly being reduced into a rubber stamp of the legislature, of the executive arm of government, does not hold water. There are instances when the legislature will rise up to the occasion and then fiercely and jealously guards and protects its independence, where there is clearly an encroachment or deliberate steps being taken by the executive arm of government to encroach upon the powers of the legislature of lawmaking for the peace, order, and good governance of the country. And that is why you can see on various occasions where there are invitations to members of the executive arm of government, whether either out of executive arrogance or executive recklessness, they refuse to honor the invitation of the legislature. The legislature invokes the relevant provisions of the Constitution and wields the big stick with a view to forcing members of the legislature to appear before the legislature to account for their acts, whether their acts of omission or commission in the discharge of the functions of their office. So this notion of the executive, the legislature has been reduced to an appendage or a rubber stamp of the executive does not hold water again, because there are instances where the legislature jealously guards and protects its independence, but without necessarily relegating to the background the need for the two arms of government to work in a mutually symbiotic relationship with a view to delivering dividends of democracy to the doorsteps of the people. And again, what people should realize is that, for example, both in the 9th and the 10th National Assembly, the APC is the majority party, while the executive arm of government is controlled by the APC. And we have a commonality of vision and programs as enunciated in the manifesto of our party that we promised the people we are going to deliver by the time we are voted into government. So because of that, and the fact that we are both from the APC, both the executive and the legislature are from the APC, and there is commonality of programs and manifesto, there is consensus at IDEM at that level between the executive and the legislature to deliver dividends of democracy to the doorstep of the people. And then at a point, there is even a committee that was formed, a tripartite committee consisting of the party, the members of the executive, and members of the legislature. I think the members of the executive is led by the vice president, while the party is led by the national chairman of the party, and then the executive, the legislature is led by the Senate president. There is a tripartite committee that was formed with a view to members of the executive and the legislature, since they are coming from the same party, agree on programs and objectives of government before it is brought even to the parliament for deliberations, so that we don't wash our dirty linens in the public as members of the same party.